ordinary human being. And the book is really about reclaiming the ordinary person, the ordinary human being that was Martin Luther King Jr.
You know, I think that even the idea, Dr. Baldwin, is an inspiration to us all to understand that we don't always start, you didn't always start out as Dr. Lewis Baldwin. There was somebody that was Lewis Baldwin long before you matriculated in all of those institutions that you've attended.
Yeah.
And so that's the same thing we're saying about Dr. Martin Luther King, I would imagine.
That's right.
He was not always delivering that speech, I have a dream, and etc. There was something about him before he got to that stage of being able to do that. And this is what you were saying that this book reveals.
This book reveals the very human side. We have this image of the man who made great speeches before thousands of people, who led large demonstrations, civil rights campaigns. But what about the man on his knees praying to God, asking for strength and asking for a deliverance? That is the human Martin Luther King Jr.
And so, Dr. Baldwin, what we'll do, we're going to take this first commercial break, and then the second segment of 8 minutes will allow you to devote that time to talking about the book and the human Martin Luther King. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Yeah, you know, things that
eating habits, his love for music, all that.
That's right. That's the Martin Luther King that we like to see.
That people don't know.
To know that he was just like everybody else.
Exactly.
You know,
and that we can all, you know,
relate to the fact of death and know that even though we might be ordinary, we can
strive to the same standards of excellence.
That's right.
That he strove for.
That's right. Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
He was not always Dr. Martin Luther King having a dream. Yeah, he was a young boy.
Martin Luther King Jr., the ordinary boy, the ordinary man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's an inspiration to us all, though. That says something.
I've always told my students that. I've always approached it from that angle, you know.
So you can be anything you want to be.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Strive toward excellence.
That's right.
Yeah.
1 minute out.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate this information.
Thank you, thank you.
We have to get this on tape, you see.
Thank you.
Do something in reference to this.
30 seconds.
Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. Lewis Baldwin, and he's given us some information in reference to a new book dealing with Dr. Martin Luther King. In an attempt, Dr. Baldwin, I think we've demonstrated this book on a number of occasions on this particular show, but in an attempt to sort of get into Dr. Martin Luther King behind the veil, behind the public veil. Let's start off where you wish to start.
Yes, I've tried to look at the Martin Luther King Jr., the personal qualities of Dr. King that endeared him to common, ordinary people that he met daily. He met a lot of common, ordinary people on the streets, but what were those qualities that endeared him to those people? One, of course, had to do with his love for soul food, his eating habits. He had this robust appetite for soul food, and he would eat with his hands. And you know that kind of quality endears one to the very common people. He always ate with his hand, most of cases. He loved the ribs, spare ribs. He loved chicken, fried chicken. He loved pig's feet. He loves collard greens and cornbread. So he was able to relate to people at the lower levels of the social economic ladder because of his eating habits.
Soul food.
Yes, soul food. And also his love for music. He had a great love for the Negro spirituals, for gospel music, also for rhythm and blues, Sam and Dave, the music of Aretha Franklin. So he was able to embrace different kinds of music. He was able to had a great appreciation for dance. He was very playful. He teased people a lot, and he used to tell a lot of jokes, and had this tremendous gift of folk wit, humor, and laughter. He loved to tell jokes about Negro preachers. He loved to tell jokes about the Negro church and jokes about the movement. So he was a very fun-loving person, and he found the energy, the inner resources to celebrate and enjoy life despite the fact that he was receiving sometimes 40 telephone calls a day threatening his life. He was jailed some 20 to 25 times. His family was threatened. He was the victim of verbal abuse, racial epithets, but he still found time to enjoy life, to celebrate life through his eating habits, through his love for music and dance, through his tendencies to be playful, to tease people, and also through his gift of folk wit and humor and laughter. Dr. King, according to Ralph Abernathy, had he not succeeded as a civil rights leader, he would have succeeded as a stand-up comic.
That's right. That's exactly it. Had not Barack Obama been the president of the United States, he would have succeeded as what? A stand-up comedian.
That's right.
That's exactly it.
So to say that Dr. King was in some ways the comedian of the civil rights movement is not to trivialize his role.
That's right.
He was a tremendous leader, but he was able to inject humor and wit and laughter into the movement, and even in the most difficult situations, because for an example, before they moved into Birmingham in 1963, Dr. King preached a mock eulogy for Ralph Abernathy and others who were involved. Said, look, we're going into Birmingham. Some of us might not make it. This is what I'm going to say over your dead body. And it created a lot of laughter and that kind of thing. And it eased a lot of the tension and the anxiety that came with these demonstrations. So he was able to inject humor, and it became very acceptable in the circles of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and in the larger context of the civil rights movement.
Laughter does something. There's something that you can do with laughter and that you can't do any other way.
It has a healing effect, and Dr. King understood that, a healing effect. So he turned to laughter and humor. We know that spirituality was important, you know, praying, that kind of thing, but laughter, humor, sustain them in the context, re-energize them in the context of the movement. And we have to look at laughter and humor if we're going to understand why Dr. King was such a resilient personality.
Yeah, he understood that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He understood the importance of a good joke, a good statement that will bring about laughter at a special time has a healing quality and characteristic.
And in that sense, he was part of a culture, because as far back as the days of slavery, you find that African Americans were able to laugh at their condition. And James Weldon Johnson wrote about that in the 1930s.